Hi, it's Jen the Liberty Lion. And again, we're going to talk about the Constitution. And what is the Constitution? I've heard people call it a lot of different things. In its most basic sense, it's a contract. However, I'd like to say that it is a contract that can be amended, that it's a living document. And I first heard this from Nancy Pelosi, who said it. The Constitution is a living document. And I thought, no way is it a living document. You can't just go and change it. You can't change the body of it. And it's true, you're not supposed to change the body of it. But you can alter certain parts of it through amendments. That was my thought on it. But then I started looking at the preamble, and somebody had said something like the way they use the word for was the same way in which they use the word for in wills when someone is leaving their property to their wife or their children. So they also use for the same way that the Constitution does. They use it the same way in trusts. So there are two types of trusts. There are living trusts, and there are trusts that are static. You can't change them. A living trust is one that you can amend, and that's called revocable. You can revoke it in parts, or you can revoke it in whole if you have the power to revoke it. The power to revoke it lies with the trustee. Once the trustee ends the trust, the original things all go back to the grantor. So when we look at the preamble and we look at the other organic laws, we look at the Articles of Confederation, the person or people who own everything is the United States of America, and those are the states. The states formed a Congress and gave themselves power, and the Congress is like the trustee, and the trustee works for the benefit of the states. But as civilians, they knew that they needed a military. They needed people they can count on. They needed people who would sign contracts and be there when they needed them. In the Articles of Confederation, they created this military and called it the United States. So the military has a Congress that acts as trustee over the military. There's a lot of money involved in running a military. The money comes from the states, and it goes to the Congress of the states, the United States of America. And then from that Congress, it goes to the military Congress, the United States, and Congress assembled. And from that Congress, it gets distributed to the proper areas within the military, so that the mission that the president sets out or Congress sets out can be funded. And if it's funded, it can be hopefully completed. So once the president assigns a mission to the military has to get funding for it. So it goes to the states, and the states fund it if they agree with the mission. So this revocable trust is a living trust because it can be amended, it can be altered, and it can be ended completely. An irrevocable trust cannot be amended, cannot be ended, cannot be changed in any kind of way. So if the trustee decides to end the trust, which would be Congress, either states Congress or military Congress, I don't think the military Congress can end the trust because the military Congress was created by the states. So the states can end the Constitution or the trust, and then all the military stuff would go back to the states, each state, whatever. They could create a new trust, or they could just not have any trust. So they could create another national military, or they could just end it altogether and not create a national military at all, if the Constitution be a trust. And when you look at the preamble, and if you look at wills and you look at trusts, the word for is used in the same sense as it is in the preamble of the Constitution, where it says, we the people of the United States, which is the military, will do these things for the United States of America. So the military works as trustees for the states, and the states are also the beneficiaries, which makes the people beneficiaries. This is not the first time I've heard of the Constitution possibly being a trust, but it's never really been explained to me, or I've never seen anybody explain it, and so I'm explaining it to you now. If the Constitution is a trust, I believe it would work something like that.